Okay, I get asked this question all the time, so I'm going to try to give it an answer, though it is complicated. What exactly is a cult? Because you could be a fan of Taylor Swift, you could vote for Donald Trump, you could worship a guru, and somehow all of those things have amounted to this porous definition we now have of cults. But it wasn't always that way. The meaning of the word cult has shifted over time and bent to fit our cultural anxieties and our obsessions. And I think it's actually really interesting. And all of it begins with Charlie Manson. Before Charlie Manson assembled his band of murderous hippies, cult wasn't such a loaded term. It just described small, fringe religious groups, offbeat, but nothing necessarily sinister. In fact, many of the groups that were once considered cults, like Mormons or Seventh day Adventists, have transitioned into mainstream religions. But after Manson, everything really changed. His family and the Tate LaBianca murders became the boogeyman of the counterculture era. Drugs, free love, radical ideas suddenly could become brutal murder. And now a cult wasn't just about religion, it was about control, violence, and brainwashing. And that fear only escalated as we moved into the 1970s, when, at the same time, alternative religious movements were flourishing. So there were fears about all of those: the Jesus movement, Hare Krishnas, spiritual collectives. A lot of them my parents were involved in, too. Some were harmless, but others wielded deep control over their members, like in 1978 with the Jonestown Massacre. 900 people die in a murder-suicide in Guyana, and it freaked people out. It freaked the public to the core. And then a wave of anti-cult activism followed. Families claimed their loved ones had been brainwashed. Groups like the Cult Awareness Network emerged to fight back. Suddenly, any religious movement that deviated from the mainstream risked being labeled a cult. And once that happened, you were a pariah. Deprogramming became a huge and controversial practice during this time. Families, terrified that their children had been sucked into cults, hired deprogrammers. Some literally kidnapped and forcibly reprogrammed members to try to break them free. The hysteria surrounding cults meant that nuance was completely lost. And then you fast forward to today, we have turned cult stories into binge-worthy entertainment. Really necessary stories like the story of Wild Wild Country or The Vow or Jonestown or Waco, but they all fall within this kind of subgenre of true crime storytelling. And now that term itself has become so mainstream as to not really have much import or value anymore. So a question I've been asking myself a lot lately is, does this term really serve us? Is it time for us to retire the word cult? Tell me what you think. I'm probably going to do a newsletter in a couple of days that talks about these issues as well, so be sure to sign up for that.